All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's call. It is Friday, November the 8th of 2019, and this is the Realty Classroom Sales Training Call. I am going to go right after some recorded calls because all of you members know that I am in desperate pursuit of you sending me some recorded calls. So we actually hear both sides of the conversation when it comes to the telemarketing end of this business, so you can see how to better serve the consumer. That is the purpose here. We have to understand how to better serve the consumer if we're going to improve our businesses. And that comes from a big position of giving them something that's in it for them. You have to understand that I have seen these tiny little mistakes at the telemarketing end or even in the house. I was in a live presentation last night. I'll relate that anecdote to you after I do some of these calls so you can see how that transition is everything. I explained that to my own telemarketer, Autumn, this week, that it's wonderful to put a personal note in the package that gets sent, but it's more important to be in this systematic approach, understanding that as much as your heart might want to be the giving piece of it, it's your system that is the piece that sets you up for success, okay? So those two things can collide perfectly when you give, but you systematize. And that's what we're trying to find here is what is the right system? Right? We want to hear that other side of that conversation. It's one thing to train in theory. It's another thing to go out there and actually make this stuff work with the consumer and bring the feedback here to this call. So we're going to see that live. Okay. So when I open up the microphones, I am looking for Sarah. I see you in here, but you'll have to tell me that Dave and Pat are on as well. Just so everybody knows by background, this is a very successful team up in Ottawa, Canada, doing nearly 200 plus deals, plus or minus there. And they have a team of telemarketers. They call them BDAs, Business Development Associates. And so they're very concierge in their approach, and there's high volume. So you're always balancing this high volume approach with this pressure to get this appointment to feed this machine, where I'm trying to prove and have, I think, to a large extent with them, that if you slow it down, you're concierge, but yet you're edited, you can be highly effective. And we're going to hear two calls that end up being successful because my notes on them from Sarah, and I'll let her explain this in a second, say that both of these listings signed on the spot. So it's important to see calls that lead to listings that were achieved in the field. In other words, this is the telemarketing call and the verbiage and the language that set the outside sales agent up for the ability to go in and just sign. And that's great. And I say this all the time, is that I think it's really important to make sure that you understand how those two things are symbiotic and to not have your telemarketing disconnected from what happens in the house or in the field with a buyer. It doesn't matter either way. That's the key to understand here, right? Okay, so let me get you in here, Sarah, and you can give us any sort of anecdote that goes along with that you want. So remember, *6 your mic or mute it, and we'll go from there. Okay, you there with me, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Laura, or who's ever in an Austinville number, which is probably Autumn, or Laura, can you mute that mic? It's a little bit noisy. All right, go ahead. Sarah, give us the background here, please, on these calls and a little bit of the update. Where were we? And I challenged you this week, on our one-on-one, where are these calls? We need to be listening to these calls. So I wanted to hear a little bit from where we were, because we made some good progress from back then. What were we doing in the past? What did we update? And what's happening now? What do we need to be looking for here today?
Yeah, so previously, if we go back a couple of years, there was a lot of pressure to get in the door. So our BDAs were really good at objection handling and to get the client to say yes, but oftentimes they would cancel or they would no-show on the appointments. Mm-hmm. So we were having a cancellation rate of 50%. Now we've gone with we've gone with the seller questionnaire that you've created, mm-hmm. and they're just slowing down and actually listening to what the people have to say. And then if the timing and motivation isn't right for an appointment right now, then we set up the follow-up plan and have much better follow-up than we did before. Before we were just kind of skimming the cream and not really doing the follow-up. Mm-hmm. And now they've really focused a lot on that. Now, these two calls that we've done were, I believe, the first time that they spoke to the client, but Dave and Pat will be able to confirm that. And one of the things that we found earlier this summer was that we were using the old questionnaire and it was kind of the wrong order and different things were interjected. So now this is a follow-up to that where they've shortened the calls and they're following the points a lot more succinctly, I'd say.
Okay. How about the genesis of the lead? What's the birth of the lead? Where do we get these from? And you can pick one at a time, Dave's or Pat's, whatever one you want to start with. We'll go to that one. But give me the birth so everybody knows the entirety of the framework, please.
Yeah. So the first one for Pat's call, that one is a internet lead, just looking for a home evaluation. And one of the issues we were having with these before was that we didn't know what the ad said because we were buying these leads. Yeah. And then once we figured out what the ad said, then we were able to tailor our opening to that so that people weren't hanging up the phone on us. Yeah. And then that's kind of how I think that's been part of our progression in having the appointment.
And would you say on a scale of 1 to 10, how important was it for you, specifically managing this telemarketing group, how important was it for you to determine what was being said in an ad that was yielding these leads? What was your big discovery in that?
Oh, for sure. It was a 10. And because part of the issue was people were hanging up the phone or they were saying, this is false advertising, or you're not giving me what you said you would. And then we found out what the leads were what the ads were actually saying. We were like, hold on, that's nothing what we're promising. Yeah. So once we had them sort of change the ad and we were able to tailor what we were saying to what was changed, then people were more apt to hearing what we had to say.
Yeah. And I think that's an important point for everybody because it's weird how people won't connect or manage the two modules that are the 1-2 punch. One is marketing. We need to have some sort of a strategic marketing approach that brings in business from people that we don't know all the time. If you want a viable going concern, you always need to be new business development oriented. That's why I liked when you started, you changed the name of telemarketers to business development associates, right? So that was great. And I thought that was helpful because it gives the language of what they're actually doing and how they fit in. The problem was that the marketing department per se was totally disconnected from the sales department. And that's actually a regular occurrence in big business too, is that the marketers are out there and they're the creatives and they're the magnetizing folks and they go with a certain thing. And worse, at its ugliest piece in the IDX world, we fell into this whole distress sale, bloody language that brings in something or makes a promise that you can't back up. That bugs me the most. If you're going to say something in your marketing and advertising, you better be able to back it up. And you can't set those salespeople up for failure by saying, for example, in Canada, I believe it was instant evaluation online. Well, that's not true. You didn't have an algorithm that was spitting out this wild guesstimate. In the States, we did. That's a whole other can of worms. But is that accurate? Are we saying that we were going to give it and it was right? So you guys are sort of sitting there and there's been promised an online eval. Now somebody's mad that the phone call has nothing to do with an online eval. Is that fair?
That's right. And they were saying, you said it'd be instant to my inbox. Right. I never got anything. Why are you calling me? Right. I was like, well, what's happening?
Right. Well, and the reason I bring it up and emphasize it is that all the team leaders or marketing managers who look at that don't consider that. And then they're looking at these poor inside sales, telemarketers, BDAs, whatever we refer to them as. We're looking at this initial sales staff, which is the critical linchpin moment from a lead into a prospect, which is everything in business, right? And we're looking at them, pounding on them for appointments. And what are we supposed to think about them? We're supposed to think that miraculously they can overcome a problem that marketing created? It's insane, right? Makes no sense. So once you get that cohesive, I have no problem with people buying leads as long as they know what they're buying. What did the ad say? And all this gets weird out there. Like these IDX comes, we couldn't tell you that. What do you mean you couldn't tell me that? I'm writing you the check to say something on Google, Facebook, pay-per-click, the two big dogs at least. I need to know what you're saying because when that lead comes in, what's the promise that you made? See, this is all about those promises and offers, being authentic, being benevolent, being the right thing. And that's just, you have to believe that, I hope you believe that doing the right thing is the only thing, right? Anything else makes you sound like you're slippery. And the minute you sound like that, the consumer's out, right? The majority of the consumers are out. I'm not saying that people that don't do things malevolently don't win per se. They get business, but some of them aren't even doing it malevolently. Some of them are just doing it because they don't know any better. We need to clean that up, okay? Big point there. So now Tell me the context of these particular calls we're about to listen to. What kind of a lead are they?
So they're both online home evaluations that we had purchased those leads.
Okay.
And I believe that both of them were booked on the first appointment,
Okay.
or the first call, I mean. And they just, when the agent went in, it was, I think, a fairly easy appointment for them to go on.
Okay. So to
They
that
both
point,
signed, so I would say
if these are home evaluation leads, and Dave and Pat, you can clarify this if you want. If these are home evaluation leads, what is the promise that was made to these people? Is it still the same? Similar?
it was find out how much your home is worth.
Okay.
Not direct to your inbox. And it wasn't vague about it just being online only, because I had contacted the company and they wouldn't share what it was, but I searched online to find our ad.
Yeah.
And then when I found it, I was able to say, you can't have it say this.
Yeah. Which is a head scratcher. Like, we can't tell you what it
Yeah.
is, which goes to show you that none of this is rocket science. And what they're hiding is Google pay-per-click. I mean, hello, go into your search bar and start searching keywords that you think are important in Ottawa homes for sale. And you're going to find everybody, what everybody's doing. It's a transparent world. All right, let's move on. Here we go. Okay. We're going to go listen to these. Dave, Pat, welcome. I presume you boys are there.
Yes, sir.
How we doing,
Yep,
guys?
we're here.
How we doing, guys?
Good. How are you, Danny?
Good, man. Good to have you back. Dave, Pat, who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay. That was Pat, right?
Nope.
That's Dave. Sorry.
No,
I had a 50-50 chance, didn't I?
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. Hang on. It's a good ringer.
Hello. Hi, may I please speak to Paul? Yes. Hi, Paul. This is Dave. I'm calling from Metro City Property Group with Remax. How are you doing today? Good. Good. So the reason I'm calling is because you were looking for a free home evaluation at 233 Alfred Street, and I just had a few questions so I can give you an accurate report. Is that okay? Sure. So that's the correct address, 233 Alfred Street? Yeah. And what style of home is it? Is it a two-story, a bungalow? It's a bungalow. Bungalow? Do you know what year it was built? 57. 57. How long have you been there for? 20 years. Is there a garage? Yes. Big one. Two-car garage? Detached. Okay. So detached. How many cars can you fit? Well, it's irregular. It's about 30 feet long and about 20 feet wide. And it tapers a bit to the back. Was that built in 57 as well, or was it built later? Geez, I think it was built later, but I really don't know about that one. Okay. Because it's got power in it and everything and gas. Oh, okay. How many bedrooms and bathrooms are at the home? It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom. 2-bed, 1 bath. Do you know the square footage? 900. How's the basement? Is it finished? It's, I'd say 85%. The insurance said 95, but I pulled down a couple wall panels, so I have to put those back up. So it was perfectly finished yet. Okay. It needs a little work. In terms of the rest of the house, the condition, have you done any renovations in the last 10 years? No. Just furnace and stuff like that. Just new furnace. Is there anything that you think might need a little bit of work? Roof. Okay. And what was the purpose of looking for an evaluation? Were you considering selling the property? Yes. Okay. Is that something that you're looking to do in 2019, or do you think that you'll be looking to do that in the spring? Probably 2019, possibly. Okay. Yeah. My health is failing, and I just I have to get a few answers first, and then I go from there. But I'd like a sort of a figure to work with. Okay. That being the case, I think you'd actually benefit from an in-home evaluation instead of just online ballpark figures. That way, you'll have a concrete number that you could be confident in when bringing to market. So what we could do is come by and give you that evaluation. And while we're there, we go over our 7-point strategic plan for showing you how we can get the most amount of money possible for your home when we do sell it. Yep. I will let you know, Metro City Property Group is one of the top 3 teams in the city, and we actually get 2 to 3% more money for our sellers when we sell a home than our competitors do. So we'd love to show you how we do that with those 7 steps, and then as well give you that home evaluation that you're looking for. Would you be available sometime during the days or during the evenings? Day. The daytime? Yeah. How's tomorrow looking for you? Not much fine. Tomorrow? Maybe tomorrow at around 1 o'clock? Sure. Okay. So let me just double check everything here. Just on title, is it just yourself that's a decision maker, or do you have a spouse or any family that'll be making decisions with you? My wife. Okay. And she'll be available tomorrow at 1 o'clock as well? Yep. Okay. And do you have a number in your mind that you're expecting in terms of price? Well, I would think in the higher threes. Higher threes. 380 range. 375. Okay, perfect. Judging at what's around. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Maybe higher. Yeah, I mean, potentially could be. The market's, it is a fantastic market in terms of selling. In terms of buying, with your health, are you just looking to transition to renting? Yeah. Okay. All right. So the email address I have for you
Okay. Good. Good job. Tell me your thoughts about it when you listen to it. Dave.
It was good. The guy was pretty easy to talk to.
Yeah.
Answered all my questions, no problem. There was a point I was trying to dig a little bit for information in terms of the condition of his property because he didn't really give me a lot to work with there, but got over that. Pace could quicken a little bit, I suppose.
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, look at it. I think the overall tonality of it, the relationship is there. You do a good job reading him. You definitely go into 5th gear with your hair on fire the minute you hear that potentially this guy has a real reason for selling. You get into that pretty quickly and you go right at him for the appointment. So I don't want to critique that because it was effective. I just want to have some thinking points here that say, behind the scenes, I thought the flow, just looking at, I pulled up while I was listening to it, and I don't want to bias myself. I want to hear the whole thing out. I didn't want to start having this guy's, information shared here. So I just stopped the call there. I'm happy to go back if you think there's something that is valuable to listen to. I think in the beginning where the pace could quicken was you were talking about the property. It just feels like it's too long where you're writing stuff down. Just have some check boxes in front of you, Is it, what style? Check. How many bathrooms? Check. How about this? And then, if as we go down this, to get into this qualitative versus quantitative mode is I think that's the talking point here. You're quantitatively taking information about, or statistically, however you want to frame it, in that beginning part, because that's what the guy wants, right? I mean, I think we forget what somebody wants when we make them an offer. I want to know what my property is worth. We don't know why yet, but he wants to know what his property is worth. Wonderful. Tell me about your property so I can begin the evaluation that you want. This is how we do it. We ask you some questions quantitatively about the property. I mean, we can't give you a value if we don't know what we're talking about. Obvious, logical, right? So once you get that down, I think then don't be afraid to go into some more of the qualitative stuff. He coughed it up to you because, like you said, he was easy. What if he wasn't? What if he wasn't, was my thought. What if he needed to be asked more direct questions? Hey, why are you thinking about selling the property? Sounds pretty good, right? Oh, health, really? So on a scale of 1 to 10, would you say you're a 10? You can make this conversational because what we're trying to do is think this, I have to send an outside sales agent out there prepared to have something done, right? This guy has a health problem; it's failing. He wants an idea of what it is. So really, presumably, he's got a health problem, and he's probably motivated somewhere up around a 9 because he doesn't have the number yet, right? But we don't know that specifically. We're not, and again, it's an interesting thing I've learned over especially the past several years. By asking these questions, you're allowing and helping and guiding these people actually to take a deeper process. A lot of people will go to that little Google box and whimsically request something, even though subconsciously it's much heavier than that. My health is failing. I got to start somewhere. Now you start to ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you? Geez, nobody's ever asked me that. I don't know. A 9. Really? How come not a 10? Well, I don't know what it's worth and I don't know where I'm going. Okay, no problem. Hey, by the way, when did you buy this? You asked him how old it was, but when did he buy it? What did he pay for it? What upgrade?
Yeah, one of the questions I asked in the opening right after what year was built is how long has he been there for?
Yep.
And he said 20 years.
Yeah, good. And I remember that. So he said that. But I'm just saying, in that order of things, I think what you could test, because this was effective. There's nothing wrong with the tone, the pace, and effectiveness is everything. But now it's like a one-man competition. It's Dave against better Dave, right? Because there's always better Dave standing in the corner of the room. So we don't know that until we sort of test it. So what I would test is I would say stick a little bit more to an order of things where you hit quantitative, then go qualitative. It's like a tennis match. Okay, I'm going to hit him with this, and I'm going to hit him with that. Because what we say is, why are you thinking about selling? How motivated? Then we go back, quantitative. Hey, when'd you buy it? What'd you pay? Have you done any upgrading? Now we go qualitative. What's the best feature of the house? Let the guy talk about this because, this matters as he begins to talk about, well, you know what? Most people don't know, but I can stare right at the pond here. Well, that's a big deal. When I'm doing an evaluation or I'm sending somebody out and they have to have this math in front of them and all of a sudden there's something that gets revealed, what's the best feature? What do you like most about living there? So features and benefits of living there. It's a big deal when it comes to value. And the more that we know about that, I don't know who does the actual comparables or analysis or whatever you guys do, but that's where you go. And you got to the most important question. What do you think the property's worth? So, all that kind of back and forth with quantitative and qualitative gets the conversation going at a deeper level that is actually valuable to you and to the team, because we really know a lot more about him and the property. Then you get to the real business end of things. Well, what do you think it's worth? Well, that's why I'm having you out. No, I understand that, but we've never been there yet. We'd like to bring supporting documentation or evidence to support a value that you're hoping for. Well, 380, maybe more, but he's already anchored himself. He's already said 380 based on what he sees around. So now when somebody goes to sit down and do the analysis, now they have a real number to work with and all these features and benefits to make adjustments. So if I go and pull 5 or 6 things in a radius around him, nobody has a view. Okay, great, check the box up for him. But he said he needs a roof. See, when he said he needed a roof, how old is it? Is it in rough shape? Any leaks? You could have gone deeper on that because that's a pretty dang big item. See what I'm saying? So ultimately, funny thing, I just posted a post about how we become pricing it right experts. And it's actually this process right here. This is more than just a seller qualifying questionnaire. This is how you become really good at evaluation. Sarah, I would suggest that you, Pat, Dave, Sarah, etc., sit down and act as if, hang on, Terry, I saw your message. Act as if you're all going out to do this evaluation. So forget about the OSA. You guys go and sit down and do an evaluation and challenge it. Would you feel comfortable going into the house with this sheet? See, I would freak out at this point in my career because anytime I'm pulled off the yellow brick system, I freak out. I've become sort of like that Rain Man, rinse and repeat because I know the benefit to the consumer. And I'll get into that, Dave, about my anecdote about last night and where I was. But really sticking to this qualifying questionnaire as a test, because I want to give you 5 gold stars. I thought your pace was way better than it was in the past. I thought your connection was way deeper than it was. And again, I'd like to hear a challenging call where the guy roughs you up a little bit or he's a little bit more difficult and you have to sweat. But this was a nice pace. It was really good, right? But just again, reading through that seller qualifying questionnaire that has evolved over many, many years between quantitative and qualitative, only because I know both pieces of the job. I sit in these houses regularly looking at this information, trying to have an experience with the consumer where they feel empowered and enlightened and not defensive. Because most of the time, people are going to overestimate the value of their property because they need the money. They want the money. They had expectations that real estate was the greatest investment since sliced bread and it just goes off the charts. Well, none of that's real. It's emotional. And so this whole process that you're going through with this guy has to really be as deep as it can without being too deep, if that makes sense, right? We don't want him dazed and confused. That's why pace and organization and systematic approach sets up the outside sales agent to have an even easier job, which means we empower the consumers so well that they're really not lost. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So really good though. I mean, it's good. And then the result was the OSA went out, and what happened? Do we know?
Yep, it's signed. It's going to go live next week.
Yeah, perfect. So when the OSA, there's my point. So the OSA goes out. Turns out the guy's a 10, isn't he? Do we know what was wrong with him? Yep. What is failing about his health? What's failing?
Well, I feel like that particular question, I didn't ask him what was wrong with his health.
No problem. But I'm just asking, was it revealed to the OSA? Did the OSA come back with more information?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
It would be a good exercise for you to follow up the OSA and say, educate me. When you went into that house, what was it like? What did you reveal? The information I gave you, was it enough? Would you have preferred more? Right?
I definitely got the feedback from the OSA in that regard, just for that specific question about what exactly the health issue is. There's no definitive answer for that between us.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. And again, I didn't need to know it, but he turns out, like I said, subconsciously he comes to Google, he fills something out, but subconsciously he's a 10, right? He's a 10. You read him right, by the way. That's why I gave you 5 gold stars. Your ability to read him, Dave, was excellent. You're like, well, wait a minute. In that case, health, we should come out. And you were right.
Yeah. As well, I asked him if it was a 2019 thing or something more in the spring, and then he said a 2019 thing too.
Yeah.
So that to me just put it
for sure.
Extra.
Yeah, for sure.
It needs to be done now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look, it's a well done call. Like I said, I would just go back and I would read the script and I would think, if you were in the house, wouldn't all of the answers more specifically, without scaring him away, wouldn't they more specifically have made it even easier? I mean, it's a 10 because it's listed. So what are we going to say? But it's Dave against Dave better. Just remember that always. Once you start to get to that level of achievement, we're only trying to see what's better look like, because it exists every day we do it. And it gets, the refinements get smaller and smaller and smaller. What you'd like to do, and almost like to get better, you almost have to cheat to just reading the questions and sticking to them. You know, you don't want to throw a deal away per se, but you want to stick to the order of things and see, you don't want to get too comfortable. I guess that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but I got the deal. Well, no, you did. 5 gold stars. Let's move off of that. I'm not interested in that version of Dave. I love him already. I'm interested in finding Dave better, right? So challenge yourself to go a little bit deeper. I would say qualitatively, right? What's the best feature of the house? What do you like most about living there? Get into that. See, remember, people will support what they help create. And so the more he understands that you care about those items, and you do because they relate to value, the deeper you're going with him. Cool?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, bravo, though. Vastly improved. And look, you gave yourself a self-critique of editing. Maybe I could have moved along a little bit better. Dave, it's way better than the long-winded calls that we used to hear. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
The whole process, actually, call to call, has been a lot easier. I mean, that's just like a small sample, right? But
Yep.
just every call I make, less meandering's taken place, and it's just made everything easier.
Yeah, and you're more effective. And that was the critique. It's always tough to critique people when they're good at something. You're good at it. You have quote unquote the gift of gab. But in business, the gift of gab can be as much as it builds rapport and everybody gives you a reward for that. What I've come to learn is that actually used to hurt me. That the time that I was spending getting high on the building of rapport, because we like people, that's why we're in the business, guys like you and I, right? What it was doing was not necessarily giving the consumer the best experience. And it's like you say, well, what do you mean? I was serving them. I was being nice to them. I was listening. Yes, all those things. But the Danny Better that was always in the corner and still is staring at me every day is like, but Danny, it's about the consumer across the table. And how, or on the other end of the phone, how can you make that consumer process better? Let me tell you what I talked to Autumn about yesterday. Now, Autumn's 35, 40 years professional telemarketing experience. Okay. So she comes in and we give her a very particular formula to follow in particular with expireds. So we ask her to say some very particular things and ask her, please beware of selling on muscle. We don't want you to use just the muscle of your history as a telemarketer. We have a system. So bring that personality, bring that experience, but stay within the guardrails of the system, giving her some creative leeway to deal with a human. Humans take you on a walk. They don't walk each step by step. So the other day, I made it very clear to her that what because she gets this and like calls me or texts me all the time about the package, the information that's gone out the door. So in other words, we're sending these pictures and details of properties, which is what people want. Like if you had sent out pictures and details of properties around this guy's home that sold probably from 360 to 400, because he said, I think maybe it's even a little bit above. Well, in case it's not, we go 360, 400. He's got 6 properties that sold recently, pictures and details. He'd love you. He'd love you because that's the first step in beginning to evaluate his value. And on top of that, you send in the 7-step plan, which you validated with the resume, right? And now that goes out the door to him with a cover letter explaining in detail what these 2 things are, what they mean. That should be able to live by itself, I told Autumn. So when you're talking to them about this thing's going to go out the door to them, Autumn, and you go there because she was supplementing or replacing the cover letter that explains these 2 items and what they mean to that person all by itself with a personal letter. I said, no. You add the personal letter on top that just says, it was so nice to talk to you. Appreciate your story about your kids, Autumn. Right? And then below it, the cover letter that explains the pictures and details and the 7 steps. That allows somebody to see, oh, I got a personal note, but I got this systematic thing that sets me up. Now, when I call back and I follow up, it's like, hey, did you get the package? Yes, it was fantastic. Thanks so much for the personal note. Right? Now, it's so easy to ask for the appointment. Right? So now it's like, hey, I was talking to broker Danny about this. He'd like to stop by and have a quick tour if you don't mind. He always likes to know what, has just come off the market. May we do that? So again, we're asking permission. And I thought you asked him permission beautifully in the beginning. I just loved your tone. That was what I think helped you stay on course almost immediately in this call. May I do that? You were asking him permission to fill out the questionnaire. And I think salespeople worry so much about that, Dave, that they don't ask permission. They're always thinking they're going to get a no. But because there was something in it for him, you asked for a home evaluation. I'd like to ask you some questions so I can give you an accurate value. May I do that? Duh, right? So you always want to allow them to have this process each and every time. Remember Kennedy saying, about marketing, people will get bored with your messaging and your process and your systems a lot further down the road than you will. See, when we're repeating something all the time, we get bored and the creative brain says, make something up today. Well, you just cheated that next person of a systematic, proven approach that allows them a better process. So that's why I'm saying Dave Better is really be cognizant now of the next level of process. Am I allowing this guy to emote, get all of it off his chest? And what did I learn so that I can help the package for the OSA be even more refined? Right? Make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
In the order, because like the sheet that I have here, once I get all the information about the house and I just ask them if they're thinking about selling, I find, do you think it could possibly be appropriate to ask before I ask that question, what's the best feature of your home and those
Oh,
sorts
for
of
sure,
questions?
for sure. I don't know what sheet you're looking at, but here's the order of things for me. We ask all the particulars about the house. Hey, tell me about the style of the property. Is it a ranch, salt box? What is it? Great. Number of bedrooms, bath, super. In our case, finished basements on Cape Cod, for example, are a big deal. In Boston, it's non-existent. It's an apartment most of the time, right? Hey, by the way, why are you thinking about selling the property? Right? So that's right after it. And now when they give you the why, we try to help them refine their own thinking. This is where I never realized that asking on a scale of 10, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you? You asked it in terms of time, which I understand. I ask it in terms of personal motivation. Now, they might seem like the same, but we don't get the exact answer, right? Whereas why, health, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10. So that's when the red alert goes off to say, uh-oh, this is go time. When I send this OSA out, this is probably a list it right then moment, given what this guy's saying. But then we gear shift and we come back and we said, okay, let me just ask you a few more questions. When did you buy it? Would you pay? Did you upgrade it? Well, why are you asking those questions? Well, because buyers are going to ask those questions and buyers are going to have access to that information. So the more that I can see and make the best case for the highest value, the more that I know, the better I can help you, right? Now you get into qualitative, because those are tough questions for agents to ask on the phone. When did you buy it? Would you pay? It's almost like we think somehow that that's non-professional when it's the opposite. It's extremely professional. Anybody who's just made an offer to evaluate your property and is not asking you baseline questions. Okay, take me back in time. When did you buy it? What did you pay? What did you add? That gives me a baseline. Okay. If you paid $150,000 20 years ago, I know that's not relevant to today because you've got appreciation, but has the house been depreciating or did you do things to keep it up? Because you're going to have needed to do that stuff. And I need to know that because I'm doing this blindly. I'm not there. So these are very, 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 very important questions from a professional context. Now you get into qualitative stuff that a buyer would react to that is also valuable. Okay, good. We've got the hardcore facts. Now let me ask you, what's the best feature of the house? Man, I'll tell you, when you sit in that living room in the afternoon and the sun comes through and you just open up and the breeze, boom, living room, key feature. Cool. Yeah, it's on the sunny side of Marlborough Street versus the dark side. Cool, big deal. These are subtleties that become big deals, right? What do you like most about living in that address? I can walk right down the stairs in the hardware store, the restaurant, CVS, everything's right out the door. It's walkable and it's easy to park. Wonderful. Those are valuable, right? To know that stuff. So if they'll bring that forward, and more importantly for the outside sales agent when they go in, say, hey, I can't wait to see this room you were telling Dave about. I mean, it sounds awesome. And you were right. It is awesome. So now everything we're paying attention. We're at a deeper level. And it didn't take you more time, like you said, Dave. It took you less. Follow me? When the system is good and refined over time by a mastermind group, it actually becomes less time to get more and better information so that we are doing a better job and, quite frankly, a more professional job. So I want you to, and Sarah, do you have the exact one from that I was just reading from? Does that sound right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good. So I would say just sit with, Dave, and I'll go to Pat next, but sit with Dave and Pat and Sarah and walk through this. I'm going deeper today. That's what I'm doing. That's why I wanted you guys here today, because you guys were there and I didn't hear anything. I'm like, Sarah, where is everybody? Right? Because listen to the improvement from one to the next by simply listening to yourself and asking, is that the best process I could give them? And be careful of being successful and using that as the next excuse to not push the envelope, right? it's easy to dismiss me and say, yeah, whatever. I got the appointment. And yeah, that's what Tarek wants. He wants appointments. That's what Sarah wants. They want appointments. Yep, whatever. What we want is you to get more or at least the same amount in an easier way where the consumer is feeling that they had an even better experience and that your OSA that you're giving it to, they had an easier time thanks to Dave. That's why we do it. And these subtleties over the course of 365 becomes a massive difference in revenue and success. But most importantly, we end up taking a consumer through a little bit better of a process, and they're birthed into your past client module, much more likely to repeat or refer. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Good, cool. Great job, though. Evolution.
Danny?
Yeah, go ahead.
He totally executed the questions beautifully. It sounded amazing. Just as a constructive criticism,
Yep.
to make sure that the personal human empathy is still there too.
Yeah. And that's a toughie for guys, right, Terry? Guys are testosterone.
So I heard you dismiss
right.
the whole health thing, and I know he didn't mean to, and that was not what he was thinking, but it was almost like a box check mark. Oh, your health is failing? Check. Okay,
Agreed.
moving on to the next question.
Agreed.
Throw in just I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
We'll keep you in our thoughts. Like anything like that, just to put the non-business part aside for just one brief second to show the human compassion in it too.
I like it.
Like you're still a person.
I like it. I think it's a good comment. And that's kind of where I was going with the idea of qualitative, and you gave me a specific. That's a good insight, Dave. That's exactly what it is. It's that qualitative moment of the conversation. Oh, really? I'm sorry to hear that. Even if it's that simple. See, for women tend to naturally lean in like that because they're nurturers. And in Terry's case, she has 4 kids. So she leans in quickly like that. It's just natural for nurturer. For us guys, we tend to be like more business naturally. I'm making a huge generalization, but having coached for thousands of hours, I can. Guys are testosteroned out, get it done. And we do move through it pretty quickly. You're still great to this guy.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, actually, in situations like that on the phone. There's been previous times where if it was a female that I was talking to who had said that, I'd probably be a little bit more empathetic.
Yeah.
But since it was a male, I just sort of felt like, oh, he doesn't want to share that with me. So
interesting. Yeah.
He said what he wanted to say, so let's move on.
Yeah, cool. It's interesting. Well, we have those biases about how men to men. Very fascinating commentary.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very fascinating. And again, I think that whether or not in that particular moment it's there, I do think that she's right in general, because that's what I'm talking about. There was a few more opportunities to go qualitatively into this conversation and allow him to go a little bit further emotionally without losing control of it. Dave, the number one critique I had back then was, whoa, my gosh, where are we going? This is way too much. And that was simply because you didn't have a system that was as clear under you. So you're feeling your way through it on muscle. Well, now that that's been fixed, take the qualitative side of it. And if he wants to emote a little bit more and share a little bit more, it'll be there. If he doesn't, it won't. But at least you won't have rushed it too far. But bravo, good work. And I'm looking forward to seeing, you dig in about the questions, and you dig in, all of you, about the analysis. I want you to go through this. I want you to see how these questions affect the analysis for the valuation. All right, Pat, we're up. Here we go. Let's see what we have.
Hello. Hi, Ronald. Who's calling? It's Patrick with Remax. How are you? Not too bad. Good. I'm calling because I've gotten your request for a free home evaluation at 102 Tate. Yep. Okay, I just need a little bit more information about the property, and I can get that sent off to you. Is that right? Sure. Okay, so is that a semi-detached or is that a row? Row. Okay, and how many bedrooms? 3. 3 bedrooms. Bathrooms? Just let me count. 1, 2, 2.5. 2.5. Is there a basement? Yes, it's about 5 feet or so. Maybe it's I don't know if you call it a crawl space, but I'm just cleaning it out. A lot of shit down there. Oh, is there? Yeah. And is that a 3-story or a 2-story? 3. 3-story. Okay. Two-car garage. 2-car garage? Yeah. Okay, 2-car garage. How long have you lived there? About 10 years. About 10 years. Okay. Now you're looking for an evaluation. Were you thinking about moving next little bit, or? Oh, I'm selling. I moved in. Essentially, it was my wife's home, and I lost my wife a little over 6 years ago, and I just I bought it off the estate, and I'm gonna move. I'm moving. I'm renovating and moving into my new partner's house. Oh, okay. And do you think that finding out exactly what you could sell for in this market would help you out? Oh, I'm intending to sell, so I'm trying to figure out how to proceed. Okay. So I've renovated about a dozen houses in town, and I'm also getting rid of I have student rentals, and I've been getting rid of those one a year. So I'm reasonably savvy, but I'm 69 and feel a little bit beat up, so I'm divesting. Okay, sounds good. And do you currently have someone working for you to unload these properties, or were you looking to interview a few people? I've had somebody's done a good job on my rental properties, but I don't have anybody for this. No? Okay. So are you typically more available during the day or during the evening? During the day. During the day? Okay. Just because obviously your property is worth quite a bit of money, and the last thing we want to do is undervalue just by sending you properties by email. What we can do is bring by all the comparables of homes like yours that have sold. You can take a look at the pictures, the sale price, and obviously we'll incorporate upgrades and condition of your property and let you know exactly what you could sell for. Sure. All right. I don't want a lot of calls though. You don't want a lot of calls. Yeah. Yeah, I'm willing to deal with you, but one get it. I don't know I think something came on my cell phone. It was an ad or something like that I responded to. So it's just a warning. But I'm fairly experienced, and I'm happy to have an evaluation and look at the cut of your jib. But I don't want a lot of phone calls. Of course. So what I can do is, as soon as we get off the phone here, I can unsubscribe you from our email list, and we can just communicate as needed. All right? Oh, yeah, I greatly appreciate that. Okay, perfect. So we've got availabilities here tomorrow during the day or Monday during the day. What would work better for you? Give me a second, All
right, let's grab that there. All right, so Pat and Pat Better. What does Pat Better do here?
I obviously should have dug for exactly what he was hoping to get in terms of sale price on the property.
Yeah.
I do ask him a little bit further down in the phone call, but he says that the market's been a little bit crazy and he really has no idea. And I guess I probably should have looped back and try to find a way to just get an idea of where his head's at in terms of price, but I didn't do that.
Sure. Yeah, all good. And I think what you both do is from past conditioning. Right? In other words, if your past conditioning has been so intensely, get the appointment, you both smelled that it was there and you went for it. So bravo. What am I going to say? That's your conditioning. But see what happens here is that it's there. You knew it, but it gets a little bit off track. And all of a sudden you lose control of him. Okay, so he's starting to get off into this esoteric, I don't want this, I don't want that. The logic of the moment is now lost, and he almost becomes defensive. Look, I'm savvy. I've done this before. And I thought your questions were great. Do you have somebody, to help you with that? Since you mentioned these other things, that was smart. We don't waste our time. I thought it was good. But you can feel this thing slipping into a place where you have to wrestle with him a little bit, recover. Great line, like, we'll just take off the emails, no problem. And then he was like, I'll greatly appreciate that. So he had some kind of weird pain point, but I don't even think he would have expressed it if we didn't lose control of it, right? Oh, so you're thinking about selling. It gave you great reasons. Here we go again. I mean, that's why I love this business, is that we really get a chance to help. This guy's 69 years old. He lost his wife. His life is clearly changing. And here he is, and he wants to divest, and he's doing it. But he actually said early on, I need to know how to do this. So as much as he's saying he's savvy in one breath, in the other breath, he's saying, I don't know how to do this. Okay. So It's there. So he tells you why. And then, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you? You guys aren't used to asking that because as soon as he started to go into that, you guys are just closing so fast. And I wonder if it's just out of that anxiety or conditioning that, it's there. So the natural instinct of both of you was to close for the appointment. I still think it's there. I still don't think you would have lost it because you're both so good, right? So you should start to go through it. Wonderful. Sounds like you're savvy. Awesome. We love savvy people. It's so much easier to deal with. Just out of curiosity, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to sell this one? I'm a 9. Great. How come? Just trying to finish up those renovations? Yeah. Okay, good. When did you buy this one? 10 years ago, you said, out of the estate? Great. What'd you pay for it? And so you're doing the upgrading. I heard you say that. What are you doing? See, now these questions are more guidelines for you because he gave you why you're thinking about selling. He gave you a lot. He already gave you some of these answers. So now we're just framing it that we heard you. We need to know that upgrading. So you paid 10 years ago this. You're doing the renovations now to add value. Good. Okay. What's the best feature? What did you like most about living there when you did? Right? What do you think the property's worth? It just rolls more naturally into that question where we're not circling back. There's no need to circle back because I'm taking you through a logical progression, right? And now we go, hey, what's most important to you when selling the house? Now we get them in a questionnaire about us because we want to know what's important to you. Because when we come over, we want to cover that thing. So what's most important to you? Getting it done quickly. Okay, no problem. We can do that. Okay. By the way, have you interviewed any other agents? Are you thinking about doing it? Right. I mean, he came into your evaluation. We don't have to assume we're the only ones, and we're not going to scare him away by asking that. Right. Sometimes on an occasion, someone says, no, I'm not, but should I? No, you don't have to. Ours is super thorough. And off we go. Right. So it's not that many questions. And it gets everything that we need to have a quality appointment. Right. The basics, the baseline, the upgrades, the features, the benefits, the upgrades, the features, the benefits, the upgrades, the features, the benefits. That's real estate 101, right? Baseline, upgrades, features, benefits. Upgrades, right? You hear the rhythm to it? There's a rhythm to this, and it's all very, very foundational to what we do for a living. So it's not like we're asking these weird esoteric things. And if somebody ever challenges you, I just gave you the framework. Well, first of all, it's important for any of us to get a baseline for value, then to add the upgrades. And of course, there's some depreciation. We need to see if that's in there too. And then we want to know the features and the benefits because that's what the buyer's looking for. They're going to look at your baseline. They're going to see if there's been improvements, and they're going to want to know what the features of the house are versus the features of another. What's the benefit of choosing you for lifestyle versus that one? This is real estate 101 that's being revealed here. Okay. So that's the why we do it, right, Pat? That's the why. And it makes your life a whole lot easier. You're no longer having to muscle, shoot, I should have, or I could have. And I get why. It's training and conditioning for the brain. You both were triggered the minute you knew there was a real appointment. And I like it. I like it. But it's still there for you. And now the fact that you've gone even further, because what I'm wondering, right? What I'm wondering is when you go all the way back over to this other side, I mean, now it's all confusing. Now I'm under the premise that somebody went out there and they got this listing too. Yeah?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, good. Again, because I think you did a good job. But now it's Pat against Pat Better. And I think Pat Better goes through this more logically, and he gives himself an easier time, right? There's no circling back per se in a heavyweight, maybe a little bit, but just not. I think you both could have had an even easier time with these calls and set the OSA up even better. I mean, I don't want to just keep saying it's okay for this team to just get these things on muscle. And that's why I challenge Sarah, don't dare get comfortable. Because what's happening as we get comfortable is we're falling back and back and back into old habits of just doing this on muscle. Why? The animal brain's getting bored and doesn't want to burn calories. Yeah, I know what Griffin's saying, but that takes more calories. No, it actually doesn't. And Dave, you're the one that validated that for yourself today by saying it. It just feels easier. Yes? I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'll come back to you. Right? Is it easier?
Yeah, it's totally easier.
Okay, why? Why do you think it's been easier for you over the last 4 or 5 months?
Well, everything's just smoother. There's less time wasted. That question about, are you thinking about selling? If someone gives me a timeline where it's further away in the future, where an appointment at this time's not a good idea, or they were just looking out of curiosity, I just go right into a spiel for sending an area sales report and creating a follow-up plan from there. So it's really easy to sort of give a diagnosis and then an action plan from there.
Well, again, I wouldn't rush it. If you got somebody on the phone, right, and you ask them motivation, so you guys keep asking a timing question. I don't think most people can answer that as clearly as they can a motivation. Why is an easy one. But we keep asking this timing thing because I know we've been trained to say timing and motivation, timing. Well, a lot of people don't know their exact timing, but they do know why they're thinking about doing it. And when asked to say, well, how motivated are you? If I come over today with a pen, you're going to sign a listing contract? No. Okay, good. How come? That's motivation, right? There's a why. I might have a good why. You know, the kids are getting older. I want to downsize. The house is starting to depreciate pretty quickly. Okay, great. As we sit here on the phone today, how motivated are you? I don't know. I'm like an 8. Oh, really? How come? Well, because one of the kids still has 2 years left in school. Okay. So you have a good why, but you're not motivated yet. And you just revealed why, and I got the timing out of it. So I think if you guys test that with asking them the motivation question, the timing will reveal itself. And you can mess with that a little bit. Well, what if we were able to come over there and help you find these contractors, get the work done quickly? Would you be a 10 before the end of 2019? See, now you could become the solution. You get it, boys?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because you can be a resource. But we don't know how to be a resource if we don't ask enough of the right questions so they reveal what is your problem in not going right now. Now, you came to us and you asked us for something, so you obviously have a why. Tell me the why. Tell me if the why is motivating you really quickly. Yes, it's health. Yes, it's death. That's what I just heard in those calls. Well, those are the 2 biggest motivators for a quick move. I got health, I got death, I got distress to a certain extent, right? I've got pain. I got to get rid of this thing. Enough is enough. So I think those things are real motivators, but you still have to ask, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, because I've had people that had somebody die a long time ago. And even though the pain is there and the reason that sometimes they just get paralyzed. Well, what are you stuck on? Well, I got to clean it up. I got to renovate it. Well, what if we could bring some people over and help you do that? What if we managed it for you? Would you sell it this year? You bet. I've been stuck. Thank God you called. I don't know that can't happen until the right questions are asked. All right, Sarah, we're running out of time here, so why don't you weigh in on this, and then I'll go to Q&A. I'll do a little bonus time here today because these were good, and this really digs in deeper to how you have a qualitative conversation that reveals more to you and sets you up better. So it's not just the patience and the efficiency, Dave. It's the deepness of where we're at, right? Sarah, thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I find you're right. Once you kind of get a whiff about the appointment, they stop asking the questions. And I know a couple of appointments that some of the guys have been on, some of the questions had been missed that they were looking for. So definitely need to focus on getting all of those answers. And then also too, not necessarily just flipping something to a follow-up if they say that they're not looking to list right now, just digging deeper and figuring out.
Yeah, well, the premise is you have them in the moment there. See, yeah. Here's what happens along the assembly line of a business, okay? When we go from one spot to the next, if the previous step doesn't see how important it is to be connected to the next step, it's lost on them, and rightfully so. It's not their fault. It's ours. We are the problem as the manager and the manager consultant, right? Is that you look at that moment, you say, guys, look, the reason for asking all these questions is because you have to know what it's like for the outside sales agent to be sitting there. Now they have to probe when you had them in this nice rhythm. Now they have to go reinvent some of that stuff, and their job becomes a little bit more difficult. And that's what I had to. They're in good company, by the way, Sarah, because it was lost on Laura, and Laura had been doing it with me, I think, at the time for about 10 years. I'm like, no, look, kid, this is not a casual questionnaire. When I go into that house, I have to be hyper focused on the human being and what's important to them and how I can help them. And if I have to spend a lot of calories trying to dig and figure things out that you could have figured out in 5 minutes on the phone, we're just reinventing the wheel and you're disconnected. So I actually had and I didn't realize this back now it's probably about 5-6 years ago, Laura had come out in the first presentation. We just got so transactional at one point that she'd never come out with me to be empathetic to my plight. And she's like, you know what the irony was, she said, Sarah? She goes, oh my gosh, I never thought you listened that much. Right? Because she sees me in this teaching mode all the time where instruction is just coming, right? But in the house, it's provocation. I'll ask a question, I'll lead, I'll let them speak, I'll be able to solve their problem along each step of the way. But I always stay systematic. Last night, once again, 51 minutes from the arrival at the house to when I exited the door. So if there's not some extemporaneous problem that goes deeper, the systematic way to make them feel 100% listened to only takes me about 45, 50 minutes and I'm done, because it's set up so beautifully by, inside sales with this questionnaire that I'm able to go see the nickel tour of the property, sit down across from them, ask them why we're doing this, even though I know to go deeper on the same stuff. Hey, it looks like you want to go back to New York City. Looks like you're a 10. Okay. But yet I discovered that there's a defensive position about price. I said, well, where'd you get the price? We just threw it on there. Like, yeah, welcome to Cape Cod. Doesn't work like that, right? So then I said, when I go through this, I'm going to show you how I brought some math, and I can't get away from the math. But I hear you. And she must have said about 3 or 4 times, I'm not going to give it away. I said, look, we all say that. And I get it, because we have a perception of value. Unfortunately, our perception and reality can be 2 different things. So at bare minimum, I promise you tonight, I'm going to give you a dose of reality on what I have. But I took her further than anybody had before. Even though a lot of these brokers I'm going in against after they expired are good, there's a deeper level. And they're not looking for their better version. So they're allowing the consumer to just make it up. They're accepting it, hoping that the consumer will somehow miraculously come back to them. I was in 2 of these this week. 2, where good agents have done a decent enough job, but it's not even remotely close to good enough when it comes to explaining, here's the real value. Here's the net sheet. You can't believe the power of a net sheet that just keeps being overlooked, that once I take you through all this and I show you what you would net, it's amazing how all of a sudden now you can have a better process. I'm going to leave here because I know you don't want to be pressured, and I'm not here. I'm just taking what I have in front of me, and I'm going to show you what you walk away with. I'm going to let you take this back to New York City. So when you sit with your kids, and then she revealed, oh, my son's been telling me price is too high. Okay, you take this, and I need to do a little bit more research. But you take this, you have your process. And quite frankly, I don't want the listing at the wrong price because it's a disservice to her. So this really matters, Sarah, when we go in there to have these guys understand that there's a reason for this discovery, because when I give it to the OSA and the OSA goes in there, it's just better for everybody. And there's a big level to go here, right? So we don't need to rush, but we created that in these guys by saying appointment, 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 appointment. They hear it. It's like Pavlov's dog. What are you going to do now? Talk them off the bell, right? You have to show these 2 guys and the rest of the staff and anybody else who gets hired. Why? Why are we doing this with you? Because and Dave's starting to hear it in his own voice, right? Because he said it, not that Pat isn't. But we're seeing why this makes their lives better. Dave's saying, yep, my life's a little bit better doing this so far. Okay? So, that's the point, is that if you can a little bit at a time retrain the brain to say, oh, this is for this benefit. And do they really know what the OSA was hoping was there? No, all they see is, well, what are you talking about? You got the appointment. You don't need anything else from me. Yes, I do. It could have been even better. That's the standard. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Good work here. Thanks for bringing these. And I know you wanted to talk about follow-up. So you've teased it with, well, then why are we just rushing on the follow-up? I would have asked all the questions anyway and gotten out what was appropriate. So you're going to have to get some of those follow-up calls for us to see, did we set them up correctly? What are we talking about when we follow up with someone who wasn't ready? You've given me 2 that got booked. Give me some that don't, but are still interested next time. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, on it.
Yeah, cool. All right, other questions. I'll go a little bonus time here today because I went really in depth on those 2. Other thoughts or questions about those calls? Anything you have? Any anecdote that I could zip through here? Anything?
Danny, if you're up for something totally unrelated,
Go.
If not, I can text you.
Go. Nope, go.
Okay, I was trying to get on Tuesday and Thursday. I kept missing. I have an idea, and I just want to know if the group, particularly team leaders that have between, say, 5 and 15 OFAs, think this is a dumb idea or not. I've been begging my crew forever to reach out to their past clients and their SOI via the quarterly newsletter, that quarterly market report that we create for them with their image and their contact info every month, and get it sent out through the same company that everybody sends it out through. So it's already created for them. It's $1 each, and to set up their Home by Design magazine that I send out quarterly as well, which are $350 each. They're just not doing it. I don't know if it's paralysis of analysis or what, or if they don't have the funds, what have you.
Well, but hold on. I get what you gave them. You gave them market update stuff, and you want them to call what list? What list do you want them to call?
I don't want them to call a list. Well, I want them to send the hard copy quarterly one out to their past clients and SOI.
Okay, do they have a list of their past clients' addresses and names? Do they have a list of their sphere of influence, names and addresses?
In Infusionsoft, yes.
Okay, so have a mailing party.
But let me finish the idea really quick. I will promise to be brief. I also want them to send out the Home by Design magazine that I send out to my clients quarterly, which is $350. So it's $4.50 to hit each of these people. What I'm going to propose today at our team meeting at 12 p.m. is that I'm going to offer to do this for them, up to 25 persons per client, per agent. The only caveat is that if it results in a sale, whether it's that person or a referral from them, that it's on their same split that they're already on. Dumb idea or not?
All right, look.
5 people will probably.
Well, you complicate. Let me answer. Let me answer
Mm-hmm.
it. I'm not gonna bring that to everybody. I'm not gonna bring that. You can ask the group, the private group, the mastermind, in the mastermind Facebook thing. But here's my answer. It all of a sudden sounds too complicated to me. The bottom line is, you want them to send something to their sphere of influence and their past clients. I ask simple questions. Do they have a list that's printable? 1, yes. Okay. The reason they're not doing it is because most people don't think strategically. So given a lack of a very clear moment in time, this is a time management issue where the event is not booked, there's a lack of a clear moment in time where they sit still and do it. So you're so good at bringing your team together, you need a mailing date. When that thing is done, everybody comes to the team meeting, they have their list, you buy the stamps, and everybody does it together. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for a campfire, a rally cry around that moment. That's my best answer. You're getting too calm. Well, if I send it for you and then the split and you just have a problem with they won't help themselves. And most people that won't help themselves are just because they haven't been trained to behave a particular way that does help them. That's our job, is to instruct them. This will help you, right? I'll talk to you more about it offline, but that's the simplest answer I can give you. They need their list, they need a time, and they need the materials. That's it.
Okay, yeah, let's definitely circle back one-on-one when we have a chance.
Yep, you got it. Very good.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, everybody, that's going to end the event for today. I am thrilled that you gave me some real calls and some real anecdotes as usual. Go out and practice this stuff. Go push yourself. Remember, there's you and there's you better. Okay? See you next week. Good work.
Thanks, Danny.
Happy weekend. You bet, Sarah. Thanks for being there.
Thanks for being there. Thanks, Danny.
You bet. You bet, Paul. Thanks, Pat, Dave, everybody who participated.